This is AHA Business Radio, creating AHA moments for business, by business, and about business, providing opportunities to discover information to help you run your business and guide your decision making. The more you know, the better decisions you make. AHA Business Radio is produced by Allan Hirsh Advisors. For more information, log on to ahabusinessradio.com. To join in tonight's conversation, call 410-481-1300. Now, here's your host for AHA Business Radio, Allan Hirsh.
Good evening. Welcome to tonight's show. Tonight is one of my spotlighting of four area CEOs and business owners, and they will be Robert Weingold, who's the Falston Group, Tom Magnito from Charm City Integrated, Ali Von Paris of the Route 1 Apparel, and Marty Glaze, President of Commercial Construction. My guest in the first segment in the studio with me is Rob Weingold of the Falston Group. Rob, welcome to the show, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you could be here. My first question I ask every guest, what motivates you to get up in the morning and go to work?
Passion. I really have a passion for what I do. A large part of our business is crisis management and communications, and we get an opportunity to help people during life's most difficult times. And I'd say that helping people is what drives me. And when our business, or I'm tapped on the shoulder to help someone through a really difficult time, whether it be business or personal or whatever the case may be, it drives me to help them understand their navigational fix and what the path forward looks like and help them achieve their goals. So it really comes down to helping people.
So how did you get started? And this is something I know is important to most businesses, because particularly this day and age with the internet, you're always at risk for problems and incidences. So how did you get involved in this risk management area?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I started my career in the Baltimore Police Department, so I ran around and played cops and robbers for a lot of years when I was about 30 pounds lighter and a little quicker. My 40 time was a little quicker, but really was promoted through the ranks and had an opportunity to work with people during really desperate and tragic times. And so it gave me a sense of how to deal with people who were in many ways out of control. I was promoted through the ranks, became the department spokesperson for more than 6 years, and again, had the opportunity to go out and talk about all the things that big city police departments find themselves embroiled in, but also try to promote some good news along the way. Long story short, I finished my public service career in Washington. I worked for Ripken Baseball and oversaw their core business for nearly 7 years and learned a lot about the private sector and how to run a business. And going on 8 years at this point, I started my own firm, Falston Group. We're located in Canton. And we work with very large public companies all the way down to small restaurateurs and individuals. But we are an executive advisory firm, and we help people build, strengthen, and defend their reputation each and every day. And we principally do that through our three service verticals: crisis and issue leadership, strategic marketing and public relations, and we have a safety and security arm also. And so we have a terrific team. They're motivated every day. And really, I think the common denominator is everybody truly likes helping others during life's most critical times.
So tell me a little bit about the leadership aspect of crisis management that you're involved in.
Well, it really is all about leadership. A lot of people think, it's how do you spin a story, or what do you say to the news media to try to make it look good? And the fact of the matter is, it really is about leadership and strategy. If you make the right leadership decisions to begin with, and you're able to be predictive in nature, and you understand how to understand who your ambassadors are, your detractors, what the ramifications of each decision happens to be, then you'll be able to turn short-term adversity into long-term advantage. Excuse me, but it really is about leadership. It's less about communications, although there's an art surrounding that as well, in terms of timing and sequence and platforms and messaging and audience structure and so on and so forth.
So in the second platform, it was was it more the second or third is what the more reactive, dealing with the crisis? So what are the standards that people should businesses out there or individuals be looking for if a crisis happens? What should they be thinking about? How they should be reacting, and what they should be looking for?
Well, interestingly enough, I see a lot of leaders who are faced with some type of issue of sensitivity, adversity, or crisis. It could be a data breach, an employee relations issue, bad press, social media attack, litigation, you name it. And a lot of times they hope it just goes away. They're not proactive. In other words, they don't decision make and try to control the rules of engagement. in essence, they stick their head in the sand. And, we all know what sticks up when you stick your head in the sand. But, at the end of the day, they just don't embrace their reality. And as a result of that, they fail to decision make properly. And they often are not predictive in nature. And so what they'll do is when they're facing a hot issue, they'll make a decision which is not well thought out so that, it might benefit them today, but what does that mean 100 steps downstream, and how will that impact their career? What we say in our circle is crisis really impacts you in 4 ways. It costs you time, money, customers, and ultimately your career, and generally in that order. And there's a lot of examples of that. And so if folks would think in those terms, identify what can go wrong within a company or your industry, and do everything you can to reduce the points of exposure, because it's not a matter of if, but when crisis will happen. And at that point, you have to withdraw from your reputational equity. We call it your reputational bank.
Before I continue, just want to remind everybody, if you're interested in talking to Rob or myself, give us a call, 410-481-1300. So how does someone think about planning those disasters or the problems that can cause the kind of risk management and the problems, as you said, with the customers and so forth? How do they plan that? How do they look at that? And what are some of the steps they should be going through in advance, hoping just in the event that they have to deal with the risk management?
Well, the ounce of prevention model is alive and well. And so what we typically do with organizations is we'll perform what's called a crisis audit or crisis assessment. And we gather the core executive team, and we talk to other influencers or decision makers, and we speak to everyone individually. And I say, look, at the end of the year, regardless of whether you're operating on a calendar or fiscal year, what could possibly prevent you from hitting your business goals, right? And it is interesting that everyone simply is very open and transparent, and they throw all the issues out on the table. And so we might conduct 8, 10, 12, 15 interviews, again, individually. And pretty soon we piece together a pattern where some folks say, well, our marketing really isn't 100% accurate, or I have these smoldering issues in and around employee relations. We have marketplace factors that could come into play through a competitive analysis. And, we feel like we're exposed from a data perspective. We have some bad press or angry stakeholders. And at the end of the day, all of these issues are very, very real. And maybe all of them or maybe none of them come to fruition. But the fact that you identify them and take firm, proactive steps to reduce your point of exposure, that's the key. And so this crisis audit that I'm referring to, we'll go ahead and identify maybe the top 5, 6, 8, 10 things that organizations are most vulnerable by category, and then prioritize it based on what's happening in the industry. And it's a fantastic roadmap for chief executives to go ahead and decision make so they can focus on what they do best, and that's growing their company, driving their brand, and making sure that the profits are where they need to be.
At the under end of that is, you're talking about in that part the prevention, but also the planning, also talk in case it actually does occur.
Right.
I would assume is the proper method of reaction and how to deal with it.
Well, it's something we call organizational muscle memory, right? And I had the occasion to listen to the Admiral of the USS Cole many, many years ago. And tragically, he talked about the attack from Al-Qaeda and how there was loss of life on the vessel, and I believe it was 17 lives. And he said, it would have been 10 times that amount had everyone not known their role when we were under attack. Well, organizations are the same way. I mean, if you take a large public company, inevitably there's going to be attacks on the brand and the product or the service or whatever it might be. But if everyone understands their role, the decision-making tree, who's in charge of what, and everyone works together, again, I'd say they turn adversity into advantage. And I think your brand is bigger, faster, stronger, having gone through some of the more difficult times.
So, and then reacting is trying to react in a way that I would imagine to be forthright and honest with it. When you're trying to hide behind the decision or the action and trying to defend it when it's not defendable, you are compounding the problem rather than owning up to it and talking about how to solve it.
Well, there's an adage that we really live by, and for the purposes of radio, I'll clean it up a little bit, but you shovel stuff by the shovel, not by the teaspoon. And a lot of organizations want to leak out, right? They want to defend what they want to defend but they don't want to take responsibility and put their hand up and say, listen, we're responsible. Here's what we're doing. Follow the resilient moment communications model that we put in place. And again, what they want to do is try to just get by the moment. Instead of making it a one-day story, they make it a campaign simply by trying to wiggle their way out of that day's soundbite or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. But take ownership, take responsibility, operate with integrity, communicate effectively, be decisive, be optimistic in your approach. And at the end of the day, I think you'll find America is a fairly forgiving society as long as they know that people are truly sorry and they're doing their best to clean up the mistake and do better in the future.
Last question. If any of the people out there want to reach you and get your advice, how can they reach you?
FalstonGroup.com, FALLSTON Group.com, or they can email me, rob@FalstonGroup.com. I'd be more than happy to share what I know.
Well, thank you very much for being here this evening. As we go to the commercial break, we have the traffic update, and I come back, I will be talking to Tom and I can't pronounce it, Tom Ignico of Charm City Integrated. Later in the show, I have the AHA Business Trivia Contest. I'm Allan Hirsh of Allan Hirsh Advisors, and this is AHA Business Radio on CBS Sports Radio, 1300 AM.
Now back to AHA Business Radio, creating AHA moments for business, by business, and about business. Once again, here's your host, Allan Hirsh.
Welcome back to the show. This segment of the show, I'll be talking to Tom Ingenjo, I hope got that right, of Charm City Integrated. First question, Tom, what motivates you to get up in the morning and go to work?
The ability to help people. That is in itself what drives everything I do at my center. It drives my business. It drives my own personality.
So what is it that the Charm City Integrated is about?
So Charm City Integrative Health it came about after 16 years of me being a licensed acupuncturist. I wanted to combine therapies that did basically what acupuncture did, but in different methods. So acupuncture from a Western standpoint really increases circulation, reduces inflammation, and helps that blood get to the tissue that needs repair so the body can repair itself. So we added a whole bunch of services, and we're constantly looking to evolve and expand and add more services that do that via different modalities.
So what are some of so for 16 years you were I
still am.
Still am an acupuncturist. So how'd you get started at doing that?
Okay.
I don't want to needle you about it, but anyway, I'm sorry.
It happens.
I'm sure it does. But how'd you get started at doing that? And because I think that might be of interest to people.
So, it's a really long story, but it was a bunch of what I'll call serendipitous events. My grandfather was a pharmacist. And I remember very clearly one day him counting out pills. And the old school pill counters, they were like a clipboard that had a little side thing that you dump the pills that you didn't need back into the bottle, and you dump the pills that you were going to give to the patient in the other bottle. And he was counting them out, and he goes, these pills are and $5 a piece. This guy has to take 3 of them a day for the rest of his life. He doesn't have insurance. Do you know how much that is? And he looked at me, and then he said, and I remember this part very clear. I don't know how to fix this. I'm going to leave that to you. So I wanted to do things. I was one of those kids that, hey, you're smart enough. You should be a doctor. You should be a doctor. You should be a doctor. But I wanted to do things that weren't, like say, a drug intervention. How can we get your body working better and better? And that's we're seeing Western medicine now start to catch up with that model with things called functional medicine, and even I threw in the word integrative medicine into my business name as well.
So what are some of because it's your facility you're just not doing acupuncture for people. You're doing all kinds of and I don't know what to call it, whether alternative medicines or alternative healing processes, but there are some very interesting things that you do down in your shop.
So no one knows what to call it. I mean, it's the flavor of the week. What's the new buzzword? But really, what we're trying to do is combine some classic therapies. And when I say classic, I'm not saying your regular everyday Western medicine. I'm saying things that date back thousands of years: acupuncture, massage, cupping therapy, moxibustion, which a lot of of people don't talk about, but it's an herb that we burn on the surface or near the surface of the skin, and it's the other half of acupuncture, if you will. And these have been around since before time in a lot of cases. And then we're doing some more cutting edge things.
Well, there's a thing that I just learned about Jinjitsu. It's a totally different type of thing. But
yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff out there, and that is a huge animal, what I would call traditional medicines. And a lot of it has been shown, even though it's evolved over thousands of years before we might have known all these little structural details inside the body, evolved with this kind of, hey, this works, so we're going to use it. And then centuries later, decades later, whatever, eons later, if you want, we see some medical research coming out going, hey, these guys seem to have known that this, and this happens. So when we're looking at some of the newer therapies we have, we do an oxygen therapy, and we just recently upgraded to something that actually gets up to 400% more oxygen into your body for a period of time, which oxygen helps energize and heal your cells, as well as helps you detoxify. We have oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and I don't mean it this way, and I won't go about detoxifying, but anyway,
okay.
Go ahead.
Well,
particularly where you're in Canton and all the bars down there.
I gotcha. Listen, we're looking at some services that might be Sunday morning services.
But anyway,
get them done.
Right. But people have had toxic problems, whether it's drugs, whatever it is that they need.
Yeah, and even not even talking about drugs, just our regular body, we make waste at a cellular level, and sometimes our body is not so good at cleaning that up, and sometimes that's stuff we're putting into our body, and sometimes that's just the way our body's breaking down. So adding this oxygen in helps clean that up, helps detoxify the body, and of course, oxygen is necessary for every cell to function. You breathe both in and out, but on a cellular level as well.
Yeah, just want to remind the listeners out there, if you have any questions or comments, want to talk to Tom about some of these medicines or healing processes that he has, give us a call, 410-481-1300. So you also do something called cryotherapy?
Yep, and that's funny that it's finally caught on in America. So it dates back to 1978, and I actually saw Floyd Mayweather was my first exposure to it. I was watching one of his fight training videos from Showtime, and he was in this chamber and he was shivering and there was smoke, and it was wow, what is that? So I started doing research, and it sounds insane, but the feedback we've gotten in our clinic and my personal experiences with it have been absolutely amazing. We chill your body with air that's been cooled with liquid nitrogen. So that steam that you're seeing is actually frozen water vapor. And what that does is wrings your body out like a sponge. I always say it's not cold for the sake of cold. The idea is we're getting a compression. We're squeezing the skin, the fascia, the muscles, constricting the blood vessels, squeezing out the joint spaces. And then when you come out, your body wants to warm back up. It opens up all those blood vessels and pumps fresh, new blood back into that tissue. And originally in 1978 in Japan, it was invented for rheumatoid arthritis. So we have both top-level boxers and professional athletes.
I mean, you actually were working with the new indoor football team.
Yeah, the Baltimore Brigade. They're a great group of guys, a lot of fun.
Yeah, they were using that as part of their training process.
They did most of the things at our office. They really enjoyed it, and it was funny. They'd come in and they'd say, "Hey, you're the only sponsor we use and the only one that seems to care about us." And I shouldn't say that, but our goal is to take care of people and get them where they want to be.
Well, your goal, as you said earlier, is to help people.
Yeah. Very true.
And you do that in what you do every day in dealing with your clients.
Yes.
So you've only been doing this for a short period of time now, but you've really built a nice business down there for yourself.
Yeah, the Canton community loves us, and we're very happy about that. That was all part of the reason we moved down there. We wanted to be able to reach those people that were looking for whether it was pain relief or performance enhancement and everything in between. And we found a beautiful space space, and for over a year now, we've been doing quite well there. We're very happy.
That's good. So if you were, I mean, you've been doing it for a year. I know you've had growing pains and stuff going through it. But if someone else were going to start a business, what would be one piece of advice you'd give them?
Just one.
Or two.
Well, the first thing is, and I've been asked this question before, and I used to say, start within your limits. And now I would say, estimate a little bit higher than your limits and reach a little bit further. Take that step and above all else, be passionate about it. If it's not a calling you, if it's not something that drives you, and it's not something that every morning I get up and say, I want to learn something else about this, or what else can I do at my clinic, or how can I do this better? That gets me going, and I think from the feedback I get from my patients and people that come into my center, I'm hoping that reflects. So that passion has to be there. Well,
it's interesting you say that. That's one of the most important things when I talk to prospective people that are talking about starting business, or if you don't have a passion for it, it's work.
Mm-hmm.
And why should you do it? It's if you don't, and there's a lot of things you're going to have to do that have nothing to do with the products and services you sell. If you don't have a passion, it's very difficult to get through those times.
Very true. Very true.
Okay, we are out of time. Got to go to the next commercial break. Before we do, Tom, how can the listeners, if they want some of your treatments, how can they reach you?
So either give us a call, 443-869-6584, or go to our website, charmcityintegrative.com.
As I go to commercial break, we have a traffic update. And when we come back, I will be talking to Ali Von Paris, the owner and founder of Route 1 Apparel, a local apparel company. Later in the show, I have the AHA Business Trivia Contest. I'm Allan Hirsh, and this is AHA Business Radio on CBS Sports Radio, 1300 AM.
Now back to AHA Business Radio, creating aha moments for business, by business, and about business. Once again, here's your host, Allan Hirsh.
Well, welcome back to the show. This segment, my guest in the studio with me is Ali Von Paris. She's the owner and founder of Route 1 Apparel. Ali, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. So what motivates you to get up in the morning and go to work?
Oh, man, that's a lot of things. Too long for this segment, but I am so grateful that I have my own business, and I've always wanted to work for myself ever since I was putting Legos together in my Lego set, so I'm just humbled and grateful that I have that opportunity.
Okay, so how did you get started?
I started my business while I was at University of Maryland. I'm a first-generation college student, and I was working at a bar called the Thirsty Turtle. And it was unfortunately forced to shut down. I was out of work, but I've always had a knack for design, and I ended up making a support jersey for the bar. I thought I would sell 30. I ended up selling 600 in a matter of 2 weeks. And ever since then, I realized I found this niche with, at the time, off-branded collegiate clothing, which has then evolved to state-themed merchandise.
And so what kind of merchandise are you talking about that you're doing?
So, we started with screen printing T-shirts back in 2010. That was 7 years ago.
Right during the recession.
I guess so, yeah. And then after that, I made a goal to start learning how to make custom product. So in 2012, it was the first time I made a real custom product from scratch. It was a Maryland flag bikini. That, of course, went viral. We were the first ones to make really anything on apparel that crazy. And I ended up selling 1,000 of those before they even came in stock. And now, 7 years later, I am selling all kinds of products, everything from sunglasses to koozies to morph suits. I don't know if you're familiar with morph suits.
I don't know what a morph suit is.
Yeah, and tennis shoes and really anything you can think an apparel company would sell, we make.
But it's all either licensed or generically designed around a theme.
Correct. Yes, it's state themed, collegiate themed, even some sport themed clothing. But we have licensing with Natty Bow. University of Maryland was the first to that we had licensing with, and then we do a lot of just generic designs, and we actually copyright our own patterns now too, with over 1,500 products total on our site.
And how do you keep track of all the products?
That's a good question. We have a small office, so I'm kind of forced to stay organized, and naturally I just can't focus if things aren't organized. So it has a lot to do with keeping track of my inventory all the time and making sure things are deducted when they're, when we take them out of stock or if something's defective. But it certainly is one of our top challenges today.
So, you started as a college senior, college junior, without any business experience. Mm-hmm. So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced when you got started?
I think just my being naive, which has also been a plus in ways, but I would say it was one of my biggest challenges because when I realized that I had to create an e-commerce store because people were needing this product that I made and couldn't meet with me in person, even just opening up my first e-commerce store was a huge challenge. I called up GoDaddy and said, and I'm sure they get this conversation all the time, but I said, I have this demand for this product and I don't know how to make a website. So they helped me through it. I connected my store through PayPal. And then I wasn't afraid to ask questions. And if someone didn't want to tell me the answer, I just went to Google, to be honest, and found out a lot of my answers that way. But I've never really had a mentor in these 7 years, which has been pretty weird to think about.
So, and as we grow and we go through business, we make decisions. And I always like to learn and hear from somebody a decision you might have made that didn't work out the way you thought, and what you learned from it, and what you would have done differently.
So when the first thing that comes to mind, which this has happened to me a lot, but first thing that comes to mind was, I was a senior in college. My parents wanted me to get what they called a real job, in finance or something like that, something steady where I could pay my bills. Mm-hmm. And
sounds like Steve Jobs' parents and Kevin Plank's parents and people like that started their own businesses in the garage or in their dorm room.
And thankfully, I was building this great relationship with my university at the time, and they had picked up that I was starting this business, and they said, you should apply to the Cupid's Cup, which is their entrepreneurship competition. And I placed... I think it was 100 and some businesses that applied. I placed in top 5. And I was so headstrong that I thought I was going to win this competition. I had the support of the community. I was the fan favorite because I was the only undergraduate in the competition that year. And I just thought I was going to win this seed funding. And it was actually for that bikini I just mentioned to you, to get the seed funding to produce that bikini. And Kevin Plank is actually one of the founders of Cupid's Cup. And I'll never forget, I didn't win, unfortunately, and I thought my business was kaput at that point. And he said to me, I don't really see this idea being very sustainable, the whole state-themed merchandise. And when it doesn't work out, you can work for Under Armour. And
well, so far it's worked out. But I do have to just want to remind the listeners that I'm talking with Allie Von Paris, owner and founder of Route 1 Apparel. If you have any questions for Allie or myself, please give us a call, 410-481-1300. So you're still on your own. It's still going wrong, and you haven't had to pick up the phone and call Kevin Plank. Yeah,
so, that was a really pivotal moment in reflecting back on, as a business owner, what I could have done. I could have given up right at that point because I needed that money to fund that purchase order because I didn't have that money. And I decided, you know what? I'm confident in this product. I will still promote it. I will still try to raise enough money to put that purchase order in. And sure enough, I ended up pre-selling all 1,000 bikinis before they came in stock.
So you had the money sold before they came in.
Yeah, exactly.
That's, but that's the challenge. And that's one thing that I talk about, the fact that you had this passion for what you were doing.
I really did.
And you didn't let the kind of setback prevent you from taking that passion and that dream and the vision you had, and you challenged it. Yeah. The same way Kevin Plank did when he started it. He had times when he was struggling, he couldn't get his first down. Or Steve Jobs, they couldn't, it was all by they did it by the seat of their pants and were successful and have made amazing businesses out of it.
It's been like a real mental change to realize that as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, you are the final decision maker. And you're raised to think if someone tells you no, then you shouldn't be doing that. You should move on to something else. But as an entrepreneur, you should be thinking the exact opposite. You should be thinking, if someone's telling me no, why are they telling me no? And if you're really passionate about something, even if someone's like, oh, that might not be a good idea, I think passion drives more than a no, So.
Yes, I do. I truly believe that. I believe that, and you see it in businesses. Those who don't have a passion for it, they won't go through that moment. Mm-hmm. They give up, or they won't do the work. And that's it is really something that I believe in. If you have a passion for it, you don't work a day in your life, really.
Right. I really do love what I do. And if I were to summarize what I do every day, it's really just designing new things and marketing. And those are the things that I have always done since I was little. If I think about all those things that I've done in my past.
So where do you want the company go? Where do you've been doing this for 7 years, 5 years since being out of college.
Yeah.
So where do you think the business is going to be in 5 years, or where do you want it to be? What are your goals?
So up until this point, I really just kind of did things off the cusp. I would come up with an idea, maybe last minute, design it, market it, and sell it. And right now I'm investing a lot more in my backbone of my business, because I know that I have to spread my wings eventually. I can't just stay. I can stay in Maryland. Maryland's great, and I'm doing a lot of business here. But with a name like Route 1, which the road travels up and down the East Coast, my goal is to expand to other states and apply this same kind of trend to other states, which are lacking this type of apparel.
So you haven't seen someone in another state trying to duplicate what you're doing in the other markets? I
haven't seen it. There is definitely state pride is everywhere, whether it's in clothing or going to your local bar and supporting, local businesses. So I think people are becoming more self-aware of what local means. And I think that I can what I'm doing right now is I'm investing in a lot of my marketing channels, really truly getting to know my customer, because all this time, I feel like I know my customer because I'm from Maryland, but who are they truly? What's the demographic? Where do they live? What do they like to do other than buy from my store? So I'm trying to develop all these analytics behind my customer base so that it's going to be so much easier to target those people in other states when I do expand.
So quickly, and we might have talked about it, was what's one thing you were telling? You started this on your own. If you knew somebody was thinking about starting their own business, what one piece of advice would you give them if you had that opportunity?
So there's so many, and I could write a blog about this, but I would say...
So why don't you? But anyway.
I need to. But the one thing, just reflecting back on my very beginner stages of my business, I have always been a controlling person in my business, and I knew that I knew my business more than anyone else, and that actually hindered my growth for a little bit because I was unwilling to relinquish some control. And had I had known how important it is to find help, pay for good help, and all that, I would have done that so much sooner.
Okay. Allie, I want to thank you for being here. How can my listeners reach you if they want your product or learn more about you?
So my website is route1apparel.com, all spelled out. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We have over 200,000 followers on there. And I also have a discount code that's eligible to the end of the month. It's AHA20, AHA20.
Oh, thank you.
20% off. So you're welcome to check it out and visit my website. Just don't do it while you're driving.
Okay. I'd like to hear the results of that. But I do have to go to commercial break. When we come back, I will have the AHA Business Trivia Contest. The winner will receive a gift certificate to the Capitol Grill. And I will be talking to Marty Glaze, who's the president of Commercial Construction. I'm Allan Hirsh, and this is AHA Business Radio on CBS Sports Radio, 1300 AM. My guest this segment is Marty Glaze, and he's the president of Commercial Construction here in the Baltimore metropolitan area. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, Marty, what motivates you to get up in the morning and go to work?
Well, what motivates me to get up in the morning is what we do with the business that we have, which is building buildings. But along with building buildings, we actually build lives and give people opportunity. one of the really great things about our company is the fact that we do reach out and give opportunity to smaller businesses and help them grow. And doing that, we're able to build some spectacular buildings with folks that would not have gotten opportunities otherwise.
So how'd you get started? I think that's a great reason to get up, really to help people and improve their, whether they're the laborer in the construction site or the subcontractors that you work with. But how did you get started in the construction industry?
Well, I've always been fascinated with building from a kid. I ended up going to Union College in Schenectady, New York.
So to one of my best friends. So
I got a civil engineering degree, and I started building skyscrapers in Philadelphia.
Oh.
When I was 24, I built a 55-story high-rise in Philadelphia.
You were the construction manager, or you were one of the workers, or where was your position there?
No, I was construction manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you started young. You've still been doing it. So what kind of projects do you all work on in the Baltimore area?
Well, commercial construction. We started out again doing small tenant improvement projects. And the Cordish companies gave us our first opportunity to do a major project as a lead general contractor, and that was the Maryland Live Casino.
Oh, okay.
And we took that project on, and we did some things that most people didn't think we could do, which is, in 13 months, we built that $200 million casino. And when we told them we were going to take 13 months, everyone laughed at us and said, "There's no way you can do that in 13 months." And we were successful in doing it. And a lot of the relationships that I mentioned earlier helped us to do that. So they were some minority contractors, a lot of minority contractors that ended up participating in that construction project and really were impressive with what we were able to accomplish.
Well, a little history there. I actually had a company design commercial kitchens at the time, and we actually bid on doing the commercial. We didn't get it to design all of the restaurants in the Maryland Live.
Okay.
Back in the day. So I guess we could have actually worked together if we had. But no, you did an amazing job at doing that. So so that was a big break. So since then, what have you been doing?
Well, another big break for us is in the multifamily residential market. And 3 years ago, we were fortunate enough to be selected to build 150 units in Frederick for a local developer. And we did that project as well as 90 units down in Elk Ridge. Both projects were done very well and really put us on another level as it relates to multi-family residential projects. So that part of our business is really booming. One of the deer projects, and they're all deer to me, by the way, but one in particular that we're building currently is the Morning Star Baptist Church in Woodlawn. It's a $10 million church, a ground-up church that we're building, and that is a very special project for us.
Oh, that sounds marvelous. So during the time that you've been with the company, and obviously when you went from a much smaller company to do the $200 million project at the Maryland Live, their business has grown substantially. So what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in growing the business during this time frame?
Well, the biggest challenge we face is opportunity. And, the opportunity that I mentioned with the Cordish companies is one of those special moments. And what we found and what we demonstrated with that opportunity is, given the opportunity, what we can do with it. So that's really the limiting factor for our company's growth is getting those opportunities. So every day we have to execute with an excellence to make sure that people understand that we have the capability, the capacity to achieve and to do the things that we do. And even with that, it still takes a lot to have people give us the opportunity to do their projects.
Oh, absolutely. Just want to remind everybody that the trivia question, which national hotel chain has the motto, "We'll leave the lights on for you"? Please call 410-481-1300 to win the gift certificate of the Capitol Grill. I really would love to give it away. Otherwise, I might even use it. I'm going there for dinner Saturday night. It's one of my favorite places. So if you get it, please give us a call, 410-481-1300. So during this time in the growth, I know I did when I was in business, and maybe I'm the only one. I don't think so. Made a bad decision, a wrong decision, and many of us learn by the mistakes we made. So during this growth process, and to me, it's about helping the people out there listening who are interested in business understand that we do make mistakes in business, but it's about learning from them. So talk about a mistake you made sometime recently or in the recent past in your business, and what you would learn from it and what you might have done differently if you'd had the opportunity to do it again.
Oh, sure. We all make mistakes, that's for sure. And we've made our share. But the one I would like to share was back in 2010, I believe, when construction market was pretty low.
Yes, I'm familiar with that time frame.
Yeah, and we made some decisions to take some jobs at no fee just to keep people working. And those were not good decisions. And so what I learned from that is to never take on work that you're not going to make any money with. So that will be the lesson I would share with everyone.
Well, thank you on that. I think I have a caller, Dell from Baltimore. You there?
Yes, I'm here.
How are you doing today?
Fine, and yourself?
Fine, thank you. So you're calling on the trivia question?
Yes.
And what's the answer to the question?
Motel 6.
Absolutely correct. Thank you very much. If you will, I'll put you on hold. If you'll give your information, contact information, phone number, an address to my producer, Joe, we'll get that gift certificate out to you in a few days. So thank you very much for listening and for calling. Hold the line, please.
Thank you.
So one last question, because we have about a minute till we have to go to the last break or really the end of the show. What one piece of advice would you give to someone that wanted to go into the construction business and start a construction company? What's a piece of advice you'd give them?
The piece of advice I would give anyone getting into construction business is to really understand your capacity. It takes time to build a company. It takes time to get to the point where you're capable of building a casino, if you will. And a lot of companies tend to try and skip steps in terms of their growth and take on things that they don't have the capability to take on, and as a result, fail. And it's very detrimental when you try to take those quantum leaps in business. You really have to understand not only what you can do, but it may be even more important to understand what you can't do and be true to yourself.
Well, I think both of those is understand what you can and can't do and be true to yourself are very important for the listeners out there. So thank you very much for being here. How can the listeners reach you if they might have a construction project or want to learn more from you? How can they reach you, Marty?
Sure. Our office is in Hanover, Maryland, and the number is 410-859-4411.
Okay, thanks again. I also want to thank my producer, Joe LaCroix. Without him, the show doesn't go on. Thank you. I want to thank my videographer, Larry Wilner, who videotaped some of the show, is videotaping the show this evening. Please join me next Tuesday at 6 p.m. My guest will be Mark Brodinski, and we are going to be talking about why of storytelling for business, why storytelling is important, and how to use it in your business. I'm Allan Hirsh of Allan Hirsh Advisors, your host. To reach me, call 443-977-4500, or you can visit me at my website, www.allanhirschadvisors.com. If you're interested, you can listen to all the past shows on the ahabizradio.com website. You can also follow me on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Aha Biz Radio. This has been Aha Business Radio on CBS Sports Radio 1300 AM. Have a good evening, and I look forward to being with you next week.